Hi, I'm Nigel Landis. Welcome and thank you for joining me for this short preview for the next episode of the Private Reflections podcast. In this episode, I'm joined by Associate Professor and Army veteran Jon Lane as we discuss his experiences in the military and his current role as Chief Psychiatrist for DVA and Open Arms.
In typical Army fashion, I knew I was nominated, but didn't actually get told that had happened. And so I was literally at work and I was like, yeah, this is supposed to have kicked off now, and I have no idea what's going on. And finally managed to get a hold of someone who then put me onto someone else and found out all of the force prep stuff was being done at 1st Brigade in Darwin. And got a hold of them, and this was on a Friday, and they went, yeah, sir, we started here on Monday. How come you're not here?
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. Lovely military administration. So, up to Darwin to do all the first force prep stuff. And then 2 weeks before we actually deployed in May, they cut the job because they decided they didn't need a senior medical officer to handle the withdrawal at TK. And so I was already on a CFTS contract, and so they decided to still deploy me, but I was based with the medical team at AMAB. That's the mounting base just outside of Dubai. And when I was there, I got offered the opportunity to go to the Role 3 in the main tertiary hospital in Afghanistan in Kandahar and have a look at their mental health team. And I was there for a couple of days, and the senior psychiatrist there was like, what are you doing back there in Dubai? We need you here, because they were actually short a psychiatrist in the team. So the captain in charge of the unit wrote requesting that I be deployed with them. And I actually ended up that year, went to the Role 3 as a part of the mental health team. And that was a defining moment in my career, I think, and an absolute turning point. So for me, working as a psychiatrist in an operational zone was enormous, because the last time that had happened for us was in Vietnam.
Yeah.
So it was like literally the first psychiatrist for 40 odd years to work in an operational zone. In 2015, I went to the US for 6 weeks, and I went to a bunch of different bases and caught up with people I knew from my deployment, and in particular looking at programs for post-traumatic stress disorder and for other things, and came across a group program was about emotional regulation in interpersonal relationships. And it was so fundamentally important because these are the key things that are impacted by stress and trauma. And in 2020, I'd written another program called Group Emotional and Relationship Skills. And this new program had a specific focus on service culture and service identity and the impacts of that on us as service members, and in particular what we sort of call cultural conditioning, and that's the conditioning for how you behave as a member of that particular group, that organisation. And when you're transitioning from the military, it's not just I've got one job and now I don't have that job. It's actually a transition of culture. It's a transition of community, and most importantly, it's a massive transition of identity. And this is because
huge.
And in our service lives, we spend so much time and effort on getting people to transition into a service identity and into a service culture. And we do that by a number of different means, but we inculcate a series of values. And values are sort of core to how we see ourselves, and so they're core to identity. But values are expressed through behaviours. All of these sorts of behaviours then lead to a large sense of purpose, and that gives us meaning. And that then reinforces a positive identity as well.
If you'd like to access this episode or the full Private Reflections series, you can find the link to Patreon in the description below. Most of the content is free to listen to, and some of the episodes are available for a small fee, with a portion of those proceeds being donated to registered charities supporting veterans. I look forward to having you join me for this episode and for future conversations in the Private Reflections podcast. Until then, thanks for listening.